Welcome to the Limelight podcast, where authors, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders step forward to share their ideas, stories, and strategies. I'm Clarissa Burt, inviting you into thoughtful dialogue, refined insight, and an esteemed way of living. Hey everybody, it's Clarissa Burt here. We are back in the limelight. And again, you know how I love to bring on really savvy entrepreneurs and phenomenal authors that are bringing all kinds of really great information and things we need to know. And I wanted to know what you think about from working hell to working well. What does everybody think about that? I think that's a really great concept. I'll say it again, from working hell to working well. And that is the name of the book that was written by, there she is, Lindsay Barnett. Hey there.
Hi. How are you?
Good to see you. Let me give a little bit of a background on you. Lindsay brings over 20 years of global human resources experience. I'm sure you've got a lot of stories, girlfriend. Human resources experience working with an array of Fortune 500 and startup clients. In addition to being an executive coach and holding leadership roles in the HR function, Lindsay also was a professor of organizational culture and employee outcomes at USC. Again, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Well, let me tell you, I'm sure, as I said, working in HR for a long time, you must have some of the greatest stories on the planet, number one. And number two, what prompted you to write the book?
Well, it's interesting because I guess one of the advantages of working in HR is all the programs and policies and whatnot, especially before they get rolled out. And when, during the pandemic, I had 2 young kids and was dying on the vine with a full-time job and whatnot. And so I took advantage of working part-time, a part-time schedule, as one of the newly promoted programs that was coming out. And what I found was all of the different things that I did to kind of recreate my life in a more flexible manner, find more work-life harmony. It took me having a part-time schedule to kind of wake up to it. But a lot of my coaching clients were already doing these things and they didn't have to work a part-time schedule. So what I really wanted to do was just capture all this hard-earned goodness and share that with others in a very action-oriented way.
Does work-life harmony exist?
I think it does. I think you just have to work at it like everything else.
Yeah. And so tell me what that looks like. Like, how does that flesh out for somebody? Because I've heard, a lot of people say it's not possible. It's just not possible to be giving, 50% here and 50% there, and it all works out and it flushes out well. I mean, what would you say to that?
That is the exact myth that I'm trying to bust, and why I'm using the language work-life harmony versus work-life balance. Because most people use the term work-life balance, which implies this 50-50 split, which is impossible.
Yeah.
Whereas work-life harmony is really about taking stock of what are the needs right now, right? Yeah. Something's going on with my kid. I might need to be 60-40, 70-30. Yeah. If I'm an accountant, it's almost April 15th, right? Yep. This time of year, I might be, 100% at work for the month of April.
Right.
So
you talk a lot about burnout, right? You do talk a lot about burnout. So how would you say is the best way to avoid burnout? I'm assuming we're talking a lot about, corporate, because of, we're bringing in the HR. So, but this doesn't eliminate the, entrepreneurs and even solopreneurs, because everybody gets burned out at a certain point. What can we do to stay on top of the curve? Because there's always so much to learn too. I'm constantly on the learning curve. Here comes a new software. Here comes a new tax law. Here comes, it's just a constant go.
Yeah, it's constant. And that is something that I think being in the workforce today is unlike anything anyone has ever experienced.
Yeah, no,
if you think about, I heard the statistic that just from a sheer information perspective, we get more information in one day than someone would get in a lifetime, like 700 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's also, I think there's also, first of all, I think a lot of people are just happy to have a job these days. And then a lot of people are working at jobs that they really don't like. They kind of really hate, but they do it because obviously they need the paycheck. So where's that fine line, that balance where, give me, first of all, let's say your 3 Ps of the workplace well-being, and then working in, that I really hate it, and I really love to work on stuff that you really love to do. That's not possible.
Yeah. So, so going back into the burnout question, and then I'll feed into that too. So there are a lot of things that you can do to support yourself, especially if you're feeling burned out. One of those things is the 3 Ps model that I talk about in the book, which is basically planning, pacing, and playing. And so planning, just to give an example that has really resonated with people, is sometimes we just need to pick one thing and just commit to it. In the book, I talk about a friend of mine who wanted to get healthier. All she did was buy a bigger water bottle.
Yeah.
I know it sounds silly, but there's a pick the thing, commit. But she felt better. She was healthier. She lost weight. Her skin was glowing. I mean, all of those things. We don't need a monster plan. The other thing is pacing, right? How do we work more mindfully and think about, okay, I need a break, right? Like, what's the antidote to just powering through, which is what often happens as people are in burnout. I just got to power through. I just got to power through. Right. And that does not support you in not getting burned out. So how do you monitor for your pacing? And then playing. If you know that something is good for you, how do you be experimental and curious and make it fun so that your brain doesn't reject it, right? How do you try on a new habit?
Yeah.
So, there are steps that you can take. And an interesting data point too, you don't have to love your job all the time. There is a healthy place between working ourselves sick and being sick of working.
Yeah.
If you love your job, Marcus Buckingham, who wrote the book Love Plus Work, did some research, and he found that if you love your job just 20% of the time, that's like 1 day a week. You're good.
Yeah,
you're good.
Exactly.
Just focus on that.
You talk also about fully part-time. I think this is a great concept. It's recognizing that work is just a part of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. And so, when you're talking about your 3P plan, I really like the fact that it's only a part of your life, and therefore maybe play a little more too. We don't have to, I think that what I'm trying to get at is, couch potato is a great thing when you finally get some time off and you can sit and veg, but I really think it's also important to get up, get out, do the hike, climb the mountain, paddle a boat, whatever, just get out and into nature a little bit more. I think that would be a really great, for me personally, I'm talking for myself, I think is really, just getting up and getting out more.
Yeah. And that's, at the end of the day, everyone is going to have their own recipe, right? There is no magic formula. There is no silver bullet. It's taking a hot second to really think about what are some of those small incremental steps or habits that you can implement for yourself that will support you in having good energy, feeling like, you can do what you need to do in all parts of your life.
Yeah.
Work is just one part of it. Mm-hmm. And when we over-identify with work and not recognize that we're fully part-time, right? There's a way of being at work when we need to be at work and being in the rest of our life when we need to be in the rest.
So everybody, I want to remind everybody, I didn't show the cover yet. Here it is. Working Hell to Working Well. The author is Lindsay Barnett. We're talking to her today. Let's get into the parents, the people that are still in parenting age. You talk about being exhausted by the second shift, which is the three energies working parents can play with, because we know sort of get done with those 8 hours. Now we have to run another 6, at least 6 at home with dinner and cleanup and homework and bath time and into bed and read the book and say the prayers and all the things, which is, it's beautiful because, it's family, but it can be exhausting.
It can be. And that's part of that working mindfully is recognizing energy input and output, right? If we think about ourselves kind of more of as a battery, right? What are we doing to charge the battery, and what's diminishing, the battery reserves.
Right.
And so, the typical energies that people think about are kind of physical, spiritual. Did you get enough sleep? Are you eating right? Are you exercising? All of that, which are all super important and part of it. But I wanted to add a few other energies that I found really supported me and thinking about how I can be working in a more energized way, which are the 3 C's. So the first one is creative energy. The second one is connection energy. And the third one is completion energy. And so I'll just go backwards in order. So completion energy, I joke with people that laundry is my best friend, because sometimes I'm working on projects that feel like they're never ending. Yeah. And I'm, it's like you just want to make progress on something. And so, whether there's chunking things out and finding ways to be satisfied with some element of completion, or doing outside things like doing laundry or organizing the pantry, whatever it is that works.
I did both of those this morning.
Oh, well, there you go. See, so but it gives you this satisfaction and this little energy push that I can do this.
Yeah.
Completion energy is great. Connection energy can be a lot of the things you already talked about, right? It's going for the hike or getting outside, visiting a neighbor,
right?
Connecting with the other humans, the higher power, whatever it is energizing. And then creative energy. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that, can kind of juice you in a lot of ways? And so I know for me, feeling like I'm able to create whatever that looks like for people, it doesn't have to be classic creative. Like, I'm not an artist by any means, but my workshops are like a big source of my creative energy.
No doubt. Yeah. I think we all feed off of each other in those kind of scenarios, those kind of situations. Leaving loudly, leaving loudly. Why it's important for leaders to signal the end of the workday. Interesting. I'm so curious. What does that mean?
So it's interesting. So I was at a conference. It was a well-being conference that I've been going to for the last several years, called the World Happiness Summit. And I was talking with some business leaders there, and just asking them, like, what are some of your practices for well-being? And one of them shared with me, well, I always leave loudly. And so, similar to you, I was like, well, what does that mean? And basically what they described was, when I'm leaving the office, I make a big show of I'm leaving, the slamming of
tomorrow. It reminds you of the camel. Hey, Mike. Remember the camel? It was, hey, Mike. Every morning when he walked in.
Yes. So it's just kind of like, goodbye, I'm out of here. You're just making a big show of it, which for a lot of people is like, oh, okay, they're going to go do their life bit now. So I guess it's okay for me to do that, right? Yeah. Oftentimes people feel like they have to wait for the boss to leave before they can end their day.
Yeah, it sounds like a good detaching from the day kind of idea to implement networking without the ick. Well, okay. Busting the beliefs that are keeping you stuck in place. Networking without the ick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to ask.
So I think, just to tie it back, like where networking comes into play in a lot of ways is in that pacing of the three Ps. So, if you think about networking just from the context of a lot of people do, which is just big conference halls filled with strangers, that's not necessarily my definition of networking. Networking is really about connection, relationship, support. And I have a whole other, we can talk a whole other time about all the different myths that try to bust around
all
that.
the archetypes we run into, right?
Yeah.
I think at least 8 or 9 of them. Seriously, if you think about it, there's a lot of the archetypes that you find in each different networking event that you go to. I'm sure I'm one of them too.
But there's beliefs that keep us stuck from not doing it. But the data shows that 70 to 80% of jobs are filled through networking in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. And when you think about, that's from a jobs perspective, internal or external, but also your actual success of your project, right? If you're working on something and you're not well networked, it may take you much longer. It may, get, you may get backed up. Mm-hmm. And so networking actually helps support you from a burnout perspective as well, because you're aware of what's going on in the organization. Yeah. Yeah. And so that can really support you.
Yeah, I think it's getting out there, networking, and then nurturing the relationships. Even if it's just that email that goes out and says, "Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving," or what, Happy Holidays. Sometimes it's just that, oh yeah, I remember that person. It's just keeping top of mind when you can. I think it's really an important part of all of that too. Not always easy because it's one more thing to do, but doing less better. You don't have to be first and in and last out of the office to get ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in other words, you don't have to burn out. I was here, at 7 o'clock. I left at 7:30. Ding, ding, ding. But I'm not getting an award. So what does that mean? Doing less better.
So it is really hard. We kind of, as an American culture, I feel at least, have created this, this ethos around, more is better. Right. You just have to, just keep doing more. And somehow or another, it'll all work out. Right. On the other side. But the reality is doing more better doesn't necessarily help you if you're not being effective. So I often would find, I would have an HR, a lot of people in my office, I'm working day and night. And I'm like, okay, but are you getting feedback? Do you know what's working? How do you are you really prioritizing the most impactful projects? Right. Are you just doing more because you think you should do more, or is somebody asking you to do more? Right. I know I fell victim to that. I had to write a little sticky to put on my computer monitor that said, just because you can doesn't mean you should, because I kept, offering to do more than people were asking me for. And so that was creating my own burnout cycle just from my own behavior that nobody else was contributing to except for myself.
I get it. That's type A personality. The type A's, right? Am I wrong? That's really the type A's that are just, always wanting to do more. I think it's also because we're quick and we get bored quickly. So, and we move at a very quick pace. And so I don't want to fall asleep. I want to move at a quick pace. And that's what keeps my juices flowing. And I'm sure millions and millions of other people as well. Let's see. Think like a boss. So recognize your choice and find your voice at work.
Yeah.
Think like a boss.
Think like a boss. Yeah. So I think, for me, what I hear a lot from people is they just kind of will do what is asked without thinking that they can negotiate, right? So I find that if you are thinking like your boss or thinking like a boss, you are able to say, hey, boss, I recognize that sounds like an important project. can we talk about, the impact to the rest of my workload? Because that means that this may not come in at the same quality,
right,
or this may have cost implications, or this may have, other implications that you should be aware of. So knowing all of that, how do you want me to prioritize this and others? But being aware of what are the various things that a boss might be looking for can enable you to negotiate your work. And
right.
a lot of people just don't think I can negotiate.
From working hell to working well. Where can we find the book, Lindsay?
Wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, small bookstores, all over.
Very fantastic. So good. Something that I didn't ask you that you want everybody to know about working well.
I think, and I'll share this just because of what you shared about the type A personalities and our speed and whatnot, is just recognizing the power of the pause. And so just being able, before you launch into the next thing, to just take a breath. Do I need to do this? What's its urgency level? Is someone asking me, right? To give yourself that pause to really think through, is this where I should be playing right now? It can be really life-changing for people.
Okay. One last question that I love to ask my guests, and that is, you cannot say husbands or children. So no, you can't say matrimony or my babies. Here's the question.
Yeah.
What would you say that up until now has been your crowning moment?
My crowning moment. Oh, that's a hard one. I'll just say the first one that comes to mind, just because it was a fun one. But right before I was getting married, I convinced my husband to make some signs and try to get on Good Morning America. And so I had a sign that said, this was years ago, one last kiss from Chris before wedded bliss. And my husband's sign said, a hug from Diane before I'm a wedded man. Oh. And so we magically got on the TV. We got interviewed by Robin Roberts. And
wow.
Diane. My husband got a hug from Diane Sawyer. So that was, I don't know if it's a crowning achievement, but it's definitely.
I would say that's a pretty big one. I would say that's pretty amazing. And again, the power of positive thinking. Thanks again, Lindsay, for being with us. From working hell to working well. Go get it, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You'll find my video interviews on YouTube and clarissaburt.com, and the audio version of the interviews you can get wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to connect with me on social, pretty much anywhere, and do stay well until we meet again in the Limelight.